Welcome to the portion. I pray that you were blessed by that worship song. We had a couple worship songs playing ahead of time. I like to just sit here and just kind of soak that in because, it really isn't about us, right, Rebecca? This is not about us. It's not
Absolutely.
about us coming
Absolutely.
up with some magical new thing that you need to hear, but it really is about how are we bringing glory to our King? How are we bringing glory into our lives? How are we being that light so that we're shining it to the nations? So I just want to ask that you all just let his spirit come in today. Just it's so frustrating. We get busy doing the prepping for Shabbat. I know I've already started this morning trying to get things done early. And I just want to say thank you to my Father and King. Father, we thank you. Thank you, Father, for giving us this day of rest. Forgive us, Father, for making it about anything except you. Thank you for your word. Thank you for your Torah. Thank you, Father. Thank you for all you've done. And you put us above all. Thank you for being that leader in our lives. Thank you for those of you who don't know, my name is Charlie, and I'm actually the founder and director of the Ruta Cafe. And if those that don't know what that is, you're here on the portion and you just maybe show up every Friday. If you're listening later on a replay, we are a women's discipleship ministry and community. I'm telling you what, it's the best, amazing, love the ladies in our community. But you can go also onto our therutacafe.com and you can see our blog. We have a sister finder. So if you are looking for someone near you, you can look on the map, add yourself, and then look and see if there's anyone near you and email them and try to connect with those ladies that are near you and see if you can. And would you guys start looking at your spam? Because I think some of the ladies have said they've reached out to you, reached out to sisters maybe that were within an hour of them, and they're not getting people to get back to them. And I thought maybe it's going to your spam because you don't know who they are. So every once in a while, just kind of check that and see maybe a sister's trying to reach out to you. And that's the only way they can is by your email. And for those that then we have for a small monthly fee, they could join our learning community. Oh my gosh, Rebecca, it's packed full, right?
It's
Packed.
got so much. It's got so
I
much.
was thinking about
I'm
like, what
still
do I
going
even
through it.
say? Like,
Yeah.
what do I mean? It's like there, I need to count all the hours. There's easily 500 hours of content in there. But we have online lives all week long going on at your pace courses in Torah, discipleship, studies, live events. And we have the most amazing teachers. I mean, not only do we have today, you'll hear all these go in there as well, but we have teachers like Valerie Moody, Dr. Dina Dye, Dr. Halisa Alwine, Keisha Gallagher, Brenda Stroff. I'm going to name as many as I can think of right now. Gail Heaton, Simonet Cherapanov, Robin Gould, Dr. Deborah Gold. Who else? Deborah Flanagan, Debbie Franick, Misty Harbor, Erica Deneve. If I forgot you, I'm really sorry and I love you. I'm on Theraflu. So, but thank you. Thank you for everybody who teaches in there and gives. They give, and they also give not just the content, but they give office hours so that you can actually sit with them and talk to them every month. They give up time to do that. Look forward to, we have a homeschool conference coming up. It is always free. It's called Raise Them Up, and you guys should be seeing stuff in the next week to register for that. Free prayer conference also happening at the end of August. And the way that we do all that for free is for those of you that jump in and donate, you can go to the rootedcafe.com and hit donate. Can I just say thank you for the dollars, the $5, the whatever you give. Thank you for that because it helps us be able to do it for free. Rebecca and I were just talking about this, you can hear the gospel is free, but the pipeline is expensive. So getting it out there to the nations is sometimes expensive with all the things we have to pay for. But I thank you guys for helping us do that. It's a tax write-off, anything you give. So thank you. Most of you guys already, if you've been here for a little while, already are Miss Rebecca Cruz. She is now, not only is she in her own, she's been teaching for years and years, but she's now also, you can see her on Messianic Lamb Network and establishing his name. Hey, how's your week going?
It's going good. It's going good.
Good.
It's definitely a lot busier than it was before, but that's a good thing. That's a good thing. I'm
Life
enjoying it.
Good. It was good.
Yeah.
I snuck in, and I know we're doing Shelach this week. I'm always left Shelach, and I think every time I read this every year, I think, oh, we got to seal it in. We're going to seal it in with a Shelach. What are we going to do to seal it in? And if you don't do this, because if you're in the creation gospel, if you've been around Dr. Alwine very much, she always encourages you to get 3x5 cards, or get cards, even bigger ones. And in nursing school, I remember we'd get these big cards, and then you punch a hole in it, and then you put the ring, right? Put the little ring in it so you can put around it. So I'm giving it. So then what you do is just put the portion at the top, and then at the top put like, what's the main concept of this portion? So you always remember, like you could say Shelach the spies, or maybe you have another, like there's a theme to this that resonates with you, so that you always like go, oh yeah, remember in the portion Shelach, and you remember it because you've put these things out, and every year you can add a little bit more and more and more to it. Do you have any tricks like that? Do you do anything like that?
Yeah, I was actually just talking about this in the study that I was doing this week on the Messianic Lamb Network,
Uh-huh.
how when the more senses you use when you're trying to teach something, the more people will retain whatever. So I like to, I'm very visual, and I'll show a video of something or whatever that I'm trying to talk about. And it definitely, you start making these connections, whether it's words that you use, if you're writing down, you're listening and you're writing down, you're using two of your senses, it's gonna kind of connect more. Anything that you can do to kind of, if you come up with funny names. I know my mom took a Greek class one time, and the guy had these little index cards that had pictures, like really, really pictures, like a um, an Indian chief sitting on a nest of an egg. It was, and it meant something. And so when you thought of that word, immediately you would think of that. You knew how to say it, or different
I
types of
love it. I
things that
love
you
it.
can
It's
do to
called a
kind of
mnemonic device. A mnemonic
exactly,
device.
yeah.
Yeah, that's my fancy word for the day. That's all I got. Don't expect any more. What it, this word shellac, it's the sheen, the lamed, and the het. Do we have any, I mean, just sending them out. Do you have any like thoughts on this already, just right off the top? I feel like let's just like share what we kind of got from it. And both of us have kind of taught this week. So what's our takeaways?
I think for me the takeaway is right there. As soon as I started reading and I realized what portion we were reading, that for me was immediately what ran it, came into my head.
Yeah, and those
Because
of you who are listening and you don't see her, she's pointing to a
oh,
sign
sorry.
behind her head that says, remember Deuteronomy 7:18.
And
So
for me, that was the first takeaway for me, because he let them know. And that's the thing with God, when he takes you somewhere, he will let you know ahead of time. Sometimes we don't always understand the message, really
mhm,
kind of have to pay attention, but
mhm.
he lets you know what's up before it's going to happen so that you can prepare. He
Yeah.
doesn't leave you like just hanging. And he let them know, look, you're going to look at this and you're going to see these people and you're going to look at these mountains and you're going to say, it's too big. I can't do it. I look like a grasshopper. I look like this, whatever. And God is saying, remember what I did? I did it before. I can do it again. So that was like
And we were
the
already
immediate
told
thought.
last week. We are told last week in let's see, I have it highlighted. I'm sure I do. Yeah, in Numbers no, that's not the one. It's in Numbers. Numbers. Oh yeah, Numbers 11:32. And then when Adonai says to Moses, "Is Adonai's arm too short? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
is my arm too short? Is Adonai's too short? Is it too short?
He's like, let me check. Is something wrong?
I created the whole universe and it's my, and I think that we can talk about the same thing on every year, and I think it's always worth repeating. We can jump into some really things like, let's tear this all apart, but can we just speak to you guys where you live today? Because I think there's a lot of us who see ourselves in our lives as grasshoppers.
Yeah.
And what happens when we do that? We miss out, and he'll give that to someone else. Maybe our kids, maybe someone else. If he's given a dream, a ministry, a book, something he's given into you, and when you looked into it, he didn't tell you to look into it, but when you looked into it, I will say, Rebecca, when the Father put that book in you, and when you had to look into it and see, what does this entail? Because I don't know nothing about making no book. You had to look into it. And when you did, was it overwhelming? Were you like, oh my gosh, there's so much to do. How do I
I
do all
cannot
this?
tell you the days that I just sat at my computer and cried, just cried, because I was trying to do everything. Everything was so new. And it got to the point one day that I sat down and I said, God, I'm just sitting here crying every day.
Yeah.
If I don't get started, like if I don't do something, I'm just going to sit here and cry. And I just literally started just taking a bite out of it one bite at a time. And here we go. I'm on already book three. So just got to take it one bite at a time.
And that's what he had already told them. He said, if when you go into the land, I'm going to give it to you a little at a time, because
Yep.
otherwise it will overtake you. It'll be more than you can handle. And please, I'm not quoting the verse. He does give you When he says he gives you more than you can handle, people overuse that and it's misquoted. It means he will give you, read the verse. It says he won't give you more temptation than you can handle, and he will always give you a way out. He doesn't say he won't give you more than you can handle. Let's remember, some people were boiled in oil and turned upside down on crosses. So that's a lot. So I'm pretty sure he can, sometimes we go through stuff is more than we can handle, but he handles it all, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you go into write this book. I was listening to a podcast this morning. It was a leadership podcast, and the gentleman said, I don't mind if someone comes into my office and I'm sharing the vision of what's happening. And when I share the vision, if they say, wow, that's a really big vision. Okay, this is exciting. So here's some of the obstacles that I can see we're going to have to look at so that we can come up with a plan. Here's some of the things I'm seeing, but we'll do this, but let's make a plan to how we're going to overcome this. I don't think there would have been an issue going into Lent if they had come back and said, Moses, here's what you ask us. You ask us these specific questions. Here's what we saw. And if they came in and they answered those questions and they said, it's a lot. It can be overwhelming. So let's come up with a plan and can you seek the Father and to let us know what the plan is? They would have been fine, right?
I really don't think God is intimidated by what we have to say, or by, or by questions, or by saying, how am I going to do this? Because he gives answers when we ask. He tells us to ask and he will give answers. I think that the point here is in verse 11 in chapter 14, when he says, how long will these people treat me contemptibly? How long will they neglect to trust in me in spite of all the miraculous signs I have performed among them?
Yeah. Right. And I think when it says Caleb, when in 24, he makes a comment, and however, my servant Caleb, because a different spirit is within him, and he has a wholeheartedly behind me. He has a different spirit, meaning they had allowed another spirit, something else, to intimidate them. They'd allowed the spirit of servanthood, this slavery spirit, to jump in. It doesn't necessarily they're saying a demon. It's just they were attaching themselves back to that slavery mentality. Like, we can't do this. I can't. You'll hear my granddaughters, if someone says I can't, they'll be like, ooh, she said a bad word. Because my daughter was raised like that. We are raising our grandchildren that way. Can't is a bad word. You can do all things. You can do all things. You can say this is hard, but I can do hard things. God has created me to do hard. The same power that's inside of me that raised Yeshua from the grave, from death, is dwelling in me. I'm told that. And I mean, people all the time, Rebecca, are probably asking, gosh, how you're writing, you're running a ministry, you work, you're going to getting a master's degree full time. Oh my gosh, how do you do all these things? Because the power that raised Christ from the dead is inside of you. That's why.
And I think, sometimes, I don't know if this happens to other people, but for me, sometimes there are ideas or there are truths that are kind of swimming inside of me in my spirit, but I haven't yet been able to vocalize them, or haven't been able to put them in a concrete idea where I can say, okay, this is what I believe, or this is, and that's one of the things that when I was writing the baby book, like what you just said about Joshua and Caleb right there, it was having that servant spirit, that spirit that decides to say, okay, yeah, I see that. But I also see God, and I choose to believe that God can help me to do this. And raising our children to believe in that is important, because it's what's going to strengthen their faith when they step outside our doors and they have to face the world, because we can't keep them in a bubble. How are they going to react? How are they going to react to the challenges and the mountains that they're going to face out there?
Exactly. And I think that, when they ended up, it was not, they couldn't take that spirit into the land because they would be annihilated. I mean, I don't know how to say this. I'm saying it wasn't really a punishment. It was a restriction. It depends on how you want to look at life. It was a corrective measure. It was loving, because it was loving that he just kept them in the wilderness and provided for them and cared for them, because it would have been devastating for them to go in with that mentality. So I choose to see this, that he loved them so much, he didn't let them go in. He just took them home from there.
Can I just say something? With regards to one of the things that I'm doing in my show, on the Lamb Network, one of the things that I'm doing for myself that I decided to share in the show is having a premise when I start to read the Bible, whenever I start to look at passages or I have to study it for Bible study or teach it, whatever, is I have to have a premise. And
Okay.
from that premise, that can be my foundation on which I'm going to build on, right? And so the premise, because sometimes you're going to come up in with things in the word that you're like, wait a minute, I don't get that, or
Yeah.
why did God do that, or that doesn't sound like I've had comments made like, well, I like the God of the New Testament because the God of the Old Testament was really mean and really like bloodthirsty and kind of did a lot of bad stuff. I like the all the love and so you have to have a premise when you see these things in scripture and you're like, wait a minute, I don't understand. The premise that I've come up with is that God desires a relationship with his people, that God wants us to know who he is, and God wants us to search him out. He wants to have a relationship with us. So
Yeah.
if I have that as my premise, then when I look at all these things and I see these challenges and I say, or I see where God says, well, you know what? You guys chose not to believe. This is what's going to happen. And you're like, ouch, that's harsh. But if God takes you away instead of you facing something that would have hurt or would have damaged you, then is that a loving God or is that a vengeful kind of, bad God? It's
Well,
the
and put
perspective with which you look at it.
exactly. Look at yourself as like as a parent. If your kids were constantly going out and you know that they were doing something, and every time they went out, they were getting hurt. Like it was hurting them. We're not going to even talk about
Yeah.
their attitude about it, but they were like, I'm going. They go and they're because of they weren't trained well enough. Say they wanted to run track. And every time they go, they were hurting themselves. They were spraying because they weren't putting the work in to do the training, to do the stretching that needed to be done. They weren't doing all the things to prepare for their races. So every time they ran a race, they got hurt. Eventually, you would tell them they can't race anymore
Hmm.
because they're going to get hurt really bad because they weren't willing to do the work. Is that anger or is that love?
Yeah. Yeah.
It was protection. Because in
Hmm.
the ones that we see them in this chapter when they're like, okay, well, we'll go. All right, all right, all right, all right, we'll go. Let's just go. And then he's like, well, no, you can't go. You can't go now. He's not there. It's not time yet for us to go. Which I have a question, Rebecca. My question I write down is, well, if they weren't supposed to go in yet, um, and did he didn't ask them to go spy out the land? They wanted to spy the land, right? I mean, let's go and look in that. Like, who asked the spy? What there was still a process he wanted to work out in them.
Hmm.
Maybe it was just 40 more days. Maybe it was just 40 days he wanted to work some stuff out and then he was going to slowly take them over little by little. But they show that they couldn't be trusted. They weren't faithful with the little things. So he couldn't trust them with the big things. So he was going to protect them and keep them over on that side. I do something like you did. Like I'm a visual, so I made this up,
Yeah.
but I do like a circle, like, okay, if it's relationship, then where are all the verses about what's the different things he's teaching me about relationship? And I'll write like the verse. And then for those of you who can't see, I have like a circle in the middle and I'll write like the premise or the concept in there. And then I might take a picture with my phone. I actually use oh, it's not on my desk. Oh, I actually use now I'm gonna have to post it for you guys. Anyways, I use a book that you can write on and it's erasable.
I love it. Yeah. The
Yeah,
Rocket
and
Book.
then yes, I use the Rocket Book.
Yeah,
And
I
then you
love
take
it.
a picture of it and it downloads it to my thing and I can print them or whatever and you can make
Hmm.
notebooks. But you can that's the visual way you can work these things out in your mind because sometimes the concepts each and then every year you can be like, oh, maybe if you have a binder for numbers, you're like, oh, look at what my little graph looks like, right? It's kind of fun.
Yeah. No, I love it. I
It's a
love it.
fun way to do
Definitely.
it. Fun way to do it. I haven't looked at my notes. Do we have any notes? I did mention this when I was teaching on Wednesday. It was that I did another thing I didn't know is that the sages say that they came back, that there was 10 of them that came back, and the 10 that came back that they were carrying the giant grapes
Grapes.
were done on these poles that were two poles going one way, two poles going another way. So it required 8 men to carry that's how they were carrying them. And then one had a big giant pomegranate, one had a big giant fig. Like that's how they came in. And it was to show how like it was mutated. Like everything is so big here and it was mutated. And they were so focused on all that instead of seeing like, look what he's done. Yeah. And you see Caleb and Joshua going, yeah, it's big, but God's bigger than all of this, which is kind of
Hmm.
cool. And I have to find, I mean, I think that the big thing in here is for me, my big takeaway was like, what lens am I looking at all of this through in my life? Am I looking at my problems in my life? I don't know what's going on in your life, sister, all you sisters out there, but what is happening right now that you are comparing you to the situation instead of the situation to God? What's happening? I want you to post it, write, talking, all those things. And I just glanced off of my corner. Misty said her mom used to said can't, never, could, do, nothing. That's exactly what my mom used to say. And that's what made can't. We weren't allowed to say it. But again, I want to say like what that was, what was happening is they were comparing to everything around them to themselves. The giants, they were comparing them to the giants and they saw themselves as grasshoppers. If they had compared the giants to God, then the giants would have been the grasshoppers, because they're not, it shouldn't even be in the equation. And that's what we do all the time is we compare ourselves to the situation, and it's overwhelming.
How egocentric are we?
Right? I'm like, kind of embarrassing. It happened to Peter walking on the water. He just all of a sudden looked down and realized what he couldn't do. He compared the waves to his ability. Instead of the waves, he didn't compare the waves to Yeshua already out there. Like, okay, well, he's obviously got this. He's walking on there. So, okay, I'm just going to keep my eyes on him. This is exactly the same situation. And I don't even know a better way to like beat this home. It's just, it keeps you from doing everything that you're called to do.
You know what I love about what you're saying is the fact that in Numbers 13, right off the bat, when they're deciding who's going to go and they're saying from this tribe, blah 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 blah. In verse 16, it says, "These are the names of the men Moses sent to investigate the land. Now he gave Hoshea, son of Nun, the name Joshua, and he changes his name. And
Mm-hmm.
the reason why he changes his name is because Hoshea means salvation, but Joshua means Yehovah is salvation. Yud He Vav He,
Yes.
God is salvation. So it was kind of instilling him the right perspective from the get-go, so that when he did go out, it reminded him exactly that. Don't measure it against who you are, measure it against who God is. See it through the
Amen.
God lens.
Amen. Amen. And yeah, and I'm kind of like prayerfully thinking right now, like, Father, is there anything else we need? Like, is this it? Because I really feel like I know that right now he's taking us to this such a high level. We can go into the stuff like, oh, well, 40, the number 40, what does this mean? 40. And I will go ahead and read what I wrote. Every time we find the number 40 in Torah, it's intermeeting is the ascent from one level to the next higher one. So we get a new mission at 40, but the attainment of a higher level can only come after the first reaching and fulfilling all aspects of the previous level, and then making an emptiness in the middle to allow for the emergence of something entirely new. We call it liminal space. We have a great teaching for those in the Bruta Cafe. Go to last year's While She Waits conference. Listen to Gail. She teaches on liminal space. It's that place you can look at it as like the doorway when you're standing there and you've left one room because you've accomplished what you needed to do in there. Unless you're like me and you have destination and you like can't remember why you're going into the next room. You you leave one room and you're standing in the doorway to go into the next room. That's that liminal space. And that's what's happening here when he says, okay, well, we're going to let you, instead of 40 days, you're going to have the 40 days it took them to go in there. Instead of them, again, presenting this as, okay, this is going to be challenging, but God. But thank goodness I don't have to deal with it. He does. And so he's going to walk us out of this. But whoa, this can be a miracle. He did it before and he can do it again. And you can do the study through this and see all the 10 plagues. You'll see these 10 miracles and things that happen as they're in the wilderness as well. He's trying to build relationship with them through this process. And here they are at this time again. They're sending out in this 40. Why? Because they have a new mission. So now these kids are going to have to grow up. These younger people are going to have to grow up and learn this new mission, but they can't go to the next place until they've completed what was established for them. And that you can't take that attitude into the next level. You can't take the doubt. You can't take any of that. I mean, here they are singing, we sing Dayenu, right? It would have been enough. Dayenu. Yeah, die. We're singing this at Passover. It should have been enough. It would have been enough if you had adjusted this. It would have been enough, but oh no, you're going to do more. Yeah. This 40 represents a better way I've thought of the number 40 is like a metamorphosis, kind of like when the transformation, like the butterfly going in the cocoon. After 40 days, the embryo of a child begins to actually assume this recognizable form. This goes along with your book, right? At 40 days, they're actually recognizable. They don't look like a
Yeah,
weird
God
worm.
is kind of giving me like a
Go,
um
go, girl,
no
go.
no I'm just thinking because it's been something, it's one of those things that's kind of been swimming in my spirit a while, that I'm suddenly in my head as you're speaking, I'm starting to put sentences together and be like, oh, okay, this means this in my, in my own life. And
Yeah.
I pray that God does that with each and every one of you, because he has a specific plan and a purpose for each and every one of our lives. And when he
Yes.
starts to like flesh that out, ask God to give you guidance that you can start to see it, it starts to make the journey, I don't know, enjoyable is not the word, but you begin to be so much more grateful as you see God's hand move in everything, even in the hard things. Because even when I was crying, trying to write the books or whatever, if I could just get through one thing and see, and I hadn't completed the book, I literally typed in how to do a table of contents in a certain program that I wanted to use. I had no idea how to use,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And it was just that one thing. When I did that, I accomplished the first little bite that I was able to swallow, the first bite that I took. It begins to strengthen you, and it begins to give you, um, your faith begins to be solidified, and it begins to make it easier to take that next step, especially when a lot of times, for whatever reason, God loves us to take steps in the dark where we have to completely and wholly trust in Him
You mean
and
like,
not know
yea,
what the next
even
step
though I
is.
walk through a valley and shadow of death, I will fear no
Yeah,
evil because thou art with me. Oh, because we have to learn how to do that. So that we appreciate the light.
yeah, yeah. And so it's just a strengthening of faith that later on you'll see that Caleb is like what, like 80, and he's like, no, God promised me this before, during this time when they were
Mhm.
going through. I said, that mountain's yours, not right now, but it's coming, it's yours. And when he was 80 years old, where most of us would want to be just sitting in our rockers outside sipping tea, he's like, nope, God promised me that, I'm going for it. He said I can do it, I'm going for it. And it's those
Amen.
little things that you do, those little steps that you take, that it's just, he's not asking you to swallow the whole thing, whole. He's just asking you to take the bite, to kind of, and swallow it, and each one just kind of strengthens you. So yeah, my brain is kind of like, I'm like, oh, so this means this. And you know I'm gonna be 44 this year, and that whole 40 has been swimming in my head for a long time, before 40 and after 40. And I'm like, God, what's coming. We've been reading in the past couple of parsha studies that we've been doing, has been talking about when the Levites were called and everything. He's like, all right, you're going to count everybody between the ages of 20 and 50. This is the time that you're going to be doing this. So what happens at 50? Because God has you transition into these different seasons of your life and different purposes. And what you were saying, like God's calling you to something, and it's a transition. It doesn't happen like, okay, I woke up, I'm 40 years old, something, it's a transition. It means that it kind of flows through, and you're moving towards something.
Mm,
And so
yeah.
God is saying, how long are you gonna, like, treat me contemptly? How long are you gonna act like I don't know what I'm doing? How long are you gonna treat me like I just lost my mind and I'm just sending you off on a wild goose chase? When are you gonna start trusting what I said about you and what I said that I was gonna do with you?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And then you can add the dimension though, is he already knows. So is he really asking those questions?
I think he's asking us so that we can get
So
together. Not that he doesn't
exactly.
know.
He's
Yeah,
not
like,
asking because he doesn't know. He's
mm-hmm.
asking us to bring a zakar, right? To get us to bring it back to our face to remember. I'm looking up
Yep.
for you just because since we're going down this rabbit trail, 40. 40 we know is 40 is the letter mem, which is like I always think of the water
The
taking
living
you. It
water.
can
Yep.
it could be chaos. Depends on where you decide to live in this letter. But if you're on the good side instead of the opposite side, if you're a mem, it's that living water, but it's also carrying you, pointing to the next thing.
Yep.
It's all mem always points and carries you to the next thing. And at 44, the next thing is the dalit, the door.
Ouch. We can move on to something else. No, I'm just kidding.
So what's next? Now we're gonna get a bunch of emails. I'm going to be 37. What does that mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but it's definitely, you start to see all these connections. And that's what I love about the word, is that
Yeah, it's
it's
exciting.
so it's collective, but it's individual at the same time. God is able to do so much with such few little words. He's able to give us so much that feeds us. And what I love is that next year we're going to look at the same passage and come up with something like God, we're going to be in a different space, different time, dealing with different things. And God's saying, oh, but you know what? Here I can show you this. And it'll be just as mind blowing and just as meaningful and just as transformational as what we're
Yes.
looking at right now.
And
That's
and
what
there's
the
in Hebrew, there's the verbiage about this whole thing. We're reading this again, and if you listen to Aleph Beta, I think Rabbi Foreman, he really shares this about comparing the difference between when they were in Egypt, the verbiage, because the same verbiage is happening when they're talking to Pharaoh about how they were as the same as he's talking about them about being cast out and that they're going to go. But the difference is he tells Pharaoh that the reason this is happening so that they would see his strength.
Yep.
But it's different with them. It's different for them because the reason he's doing it for them is that God wants to build a relationship. He's like, you don't get it yet. So he wants to still build that relationship. He wants to build a relationship because that's generational, because he's saying, you don't know me yet.
Exactly.
You don't know me yet. So we need some more time together. And even then, I want to give you the opportunity, depending on your belief system right now. But as they then transition to heaven, if they're going to, because they're going to die. Because remember, death to God is not like the way we see it.
That is such a key point. Yes.
They're like, oh, you're going to die. It's like, okay, well, he's saying, I want to give you the opportunity so that during this season, I don't want you to, right now, if you went in, you would die. And then you have to stand before me. And am I going to say, I want you to be able to accomplish what you were set out to accomplish? And it could have just been a heart change. I'm just sending you there for a heart change. And now you stand before him and he says, well done. You did it. It took 40 years in a desert, but you did it.
And the thing is that we see it as like 40 years in the desert. Oh my gosh, how terrible. But in God, there's no time or space. So when he looks at us, it's whatever time you need to get what you need from him so that you can be made whole and fulfill your purpose. We have the issue with time. We have the issue with death. We have issue because of all the unknowns. Because we don't know, but we have such a myopic point of view that we can't see that everything God sees,
Exactly.
And that's what trips us up. That's what trips us up.
It absolutely does. And when we go back to, like we see, like with Egypt, again, he just wanted to show them the difference because they were so caught up in all these other gods that he caused all these plagues to happen with them. It was to show them the difference between him and their gods. This is who I am. This is how powerful I am. The Israelites didn't need that. What they needed was to love and closeness. They needed to be sustained. They needed to shelter and to be cultivating that relationship. Completely opposite. And it's kind of interesting because you watch if you go back and do the comparisons, you see the water turn to blood, then you see the bitter water turn to sweet drinking water. See the difference? The water turned to blood is saying, I'm over this God of the Nile. I'm over this God. I am bigger than this. I can turn this. I can control this. Not only can I do it, but I'm the God who knows when enough, I can stop it. Not just turn it. I can actually turn it back anytime I want. I can bring things out of it, put things back in it, whatever I want. And then with his people, he's like, oh, the water's bitter. Then let me make it sweet for you. He's building a relationship, showing them the difference that I want to do, like a loving husband. Right.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah. It's, and we, if you look at it, if you go through both of their experiences, it really is kind of bookends. It's kind of really cool. And that wilderness is all about closeness. Them going into the desert, we have to see that same difference as being set outside the camp. When you're set outside the camp, when they were put outside the camp, it was to develop closeness and relationship and to help purge the things that were hindering them from not being able to be fit for service. Can we talk about that? That's what's happening with the Israelites now. They were lo tov. They were not fit for service. They had to learn how to be they had to learn how to do that. So, because if they're going to go on earth as it is in heaven, when they go back to heaven, they got to be able to walk this out, and they had things they needed to learn.
One of the things that I've been thinking about lately a lot is how, and I'm going to say this, and I don't mean in a bad way, but how dumb we've been for so long. And I mean dumb in the collective humanity sense. Because we have been tricked by the enemy, not in a way where we think of like Satan, like, this guy with pointy and the red fork, and I just want to do evil. It's not even that. It's in making us think completely the opposite. For example, the wilderness is good. The wilderness is where you want to be. You know, if you see yourself as a grasshopper, you're probably in a good place because it means God is showing you something. It means that God is showing you his power, his might. You want to be able to see what he can do for you. The wilderness is not bad. Death is not, you know, all of these concepts that we have been taught and have been kind of ingrained, kind of like when the people were in Egypt, when the people, the children of Israel were in Egypt, they were made to think that all of these things, all of these ideas were what they kind of live by. And what you're saying is God said, okay, one by one, I'm going to break this down for you and show you why it's not like that. And why what I have for you is good, even though it doesn't look good because you've been used to seeing things a certain way. I'm going to show you, I'm going to flip everything on its head. So we have been taught certain things in our life are what we should strive for, are what we need and everything. And God's saying, I'm not even looking at all that. Like, none of that even matters. What I have for you going to be so much more, you
I
know?
want to learn how to trust, to not be selfish, to how to live in community, how to love
Yes.
people. That's what I want to teach you how to do. And if you do, I mean, we see him back at this bitter water thing. He's saying, I'm your healer. If you want to do all these things and you're in covenant me, if you will, then I will. We start hearing this language.
Yeah.
It's not one way. You have to. He's saying, if you will, then I will. This is a two-way thing. He's trying to build and teach us how to be in relationship. We should have hyperlinks going back to the garden, because when we're comparing everything, that's having a picnic under the tree of knowledge of good and evil.
Yeah.
It's not tree of life thinking. It's knowledge of good. If we're judging, this happens all the time, talking with someone and they'll be like, I can't believe, they should have done this and they should have done this. And we'll say, stop shoulding all over everybody because you're should, and you should do this and you should do that. And you have to stop, because we don't know what the Father, why he's allowing even our children, even the things that are happening in our grown children, ministries. We're careful, because when we're judging, we're just sitting there eating in covenant with not the Holy One under the wrong tree.
Exactly.
Because I
It's
don't know
kind of
what that
just,
plan is. I'm just going to stay over here in the tree of life, and I'm just going to eat over here. And I don't understand what's happening over here. And I don't understand why that looks like it's so much better. And, oh, it's so scary, or, oh, it's so big. But I'm going to sit over here and trust that he does, because I want to walk with him in the cool of the evening.
you know, we were watching a show last night. My mom and I were watching a show last night, and it was women who were pregnant having their babies and stuff. And the idea that I was thinking, one woman, she was like, this is my second baby, and I forgot how painful it was. And she was, talking about all that. And I was saying, when you have a child, God does it in a way where the pain is excruciating. It's a difficult thing. I remember being like, I can't do this. Like, can I just go home? Like, we'll do this another day when I feel better, And they're like, no, it's happening
Not
now.
today.
I had one aunt who was very young when she had her first child, and they told her, get in the gown, and we're doing this. And when the doctor went to check her, she still had her underwear on. And he's like, you have to take off your underwear. And she's like, I have to. He's like, well, yeah, where do you think the baby's gonna come out of? It's this kind of thinking or whatever. But you go through this pain, and as soon as the baby's born, it completely wipes all of that out. Because if it wasn't wiped out, probably more than one of us would be like, yeah, I'm never doing that again, And then you see people that
haven't we done it? Haven't we done it with ministries? Well, I was hurt, so I can't trust women ever again.
exactly.
I can't
Yes.
trust women again. I can't trust being in ministry again. I can't trust any of those things again, because it's going to hurt me. And then once you finally go, okay, I'm going to do it again, you do it again, and then you give birth to this amazing thing. All those endorphins come in, and it's like,
Yep.
oh wow, and then it might hurt again, and then it might hurt again, because it's gonna grow us and teach us and bring us beautiful things. But he's telling a lot of us, do it again.
But that's what God does.
Yeah.
Is it doesn't matter what you go through. And I'm believe me, coming from me, if you know me, I am not minimizing hurts and pains and things that you can go through at all. I'm not saying that, because it takes time sometimes for you to muster up the strength and even the willingness to do it again. It can take time. I'm not saying that. But when we allow ourselves to put ourselves in God's hand and allow that thing to happen again and do it again and trust God again and take that step again, God erases all the other stuff, and you feel a wholeness that and that's the beautiful thing of the word shalom. Is shalom is translated as peace, but it's also a completeness. It's a wholeness that God gives you. Where the other stuff, like, yeah, that was my experience, but God kind of heals that, where you get to the point where you can talk about it, and maybe even talk about it in a way that can be healing for somebody else who's going through something, that's similar to
Exactly.
what you've been to, and be like, yeah, I know exactly what that feels like, but I also know what God has done, and I know what can come out of it if you let him, and
Mm,
that's all that God is asking for in this
right.
passage. He's like, how long are
Exactly.
you going to kind of, how long are we going to play this game where you're not going to trust me and where it's going to be like I'm just lying to you? How long is it going to take for you to trust me and just walk? That's all I'm
Yeah.
asking you. Just
Yeah.
walk,
Well, and you said, well, we were talking about, this is a good thing for those of you who have little kids, is this is a good time for you to teach them about grasshoppers. So I was looking about random facts about grasshoppers. Grasshoppers can fly. So it's like, uh, grasshoppers is not so, they could have picked dog, an ant. Oh, we were ducks and they were giant. I mean, they could have picked anything, like a flea. We were fleas and they picked grasshoppers. So I was thinking, well, okay, well, grasshoppers like actually could fly away from hop or fly away. They can have wings and can fly. And didn't they remember that it was the grasshoppers, because locust, grasshopper, same thing, that they annihilated a whole
yes,
countryside. Like if they were collectively a grasshopper, go them. They could annihilate that place. Like, I mean, I'm thinking that. So one of the
totally,
things,
totally.
random fact about grasshoppers, is their ears are on their bellies. And they don't hear very well. They only hear each other's pitch. Like they can understand. I mean, they can understand the tone. They understand like male and female because they call out to each other for mating purposes. But other than that, they can't differentiate things, and they don't hear very well. And I was thinking, you know, because I'm trying to, how can I make this work? How can I make this be something we can tell you guys about? Well, and I thought instantly of like Shema. Like, are you listening? Or is it your appetite? Is your ears? Are you more worried about your appetite, your what, the things of your flesh, things you want? Are your ears in the right place?
Yeah,
They were saying we are the people. They were hearing things in all the wrong ways, because they should have been hearing that Shema. Oh, who he is one. Who is our God? Am I hearing what he's been saying to me? Because if I'm hearing it, then I'm doing it. Then I'm not a grasshopper.
yeah, yeah. No, it's funny because when I was designing my t-shirt for Shema, and usually the translation that you hear is hear and obey. And I was like, well, that might be too harsh for some people who aren't ready to hear the word obey because it kind of has like a negative connotation. So how do I figure this out? And what I came up with is embrace and execute. It's embracing
Ooh,
God's
yes.
word and then executing it.
I need to go get that t-shirt.
And
Yes,
I
audience of one
because
creations.com, and you can go to her store and you can see this kid. Shema
but
is
these
is
are the things that I'm thinking about, like when I'm making a product or when I'm writing or whatever, it's these experiences that you're going through and you're saying, how do I put this into something that I can have something to remember,
yeah, yeah,
constantly to
yeah.
keep in mind. And it's embracing that word. It's hearing it and embracing it. God saying, I'm just telling you what you have to do. I'm laying it all out for you. All I needed for you to do is just walk it out. That's all I'm asking for you.
Yeah.
I'll take care of all this stuff. I will handle it. And it's funny because even later on, when God is so upset that he says to Moses, you know what? I will wipe these people out and we can start all over again. We can a total
And I
do-over.
don't think
I'm
I
cool
think
with
that
that.
was him reminding them of who he was again. Like, don't you guys know who you're
Yeah.
dealing with? I mean, obviously, this wasn't like a shock. He wasn't like, oh, did you see what they did? I can't believe they. Are you kidding me? Now what are we gonna do? I'm gonna have to wipe them all out and start over. I think, in the word according to Charlie, I think that it was him reminding, like, you guys do understand who you're dealing with.
Oh, 100%. And I think also it was testing Moses a little bit to
Yes.
say, are you
Yes.
gonna like just like, say, oh yeah, yeah, let's just do it. I can't take this anymore. I'm so sick of it. One thing that really called my attention is that when they're all getting, it says that they cried all night
Yeah.
and that they were like going at it because they were like, we're gonna die. You brought us out to the desert
This
to
is a
die. We can't
big
do
deal. They're
this.
freaking out.
Completely, 100%. And I found it so it was really impactful for me that what Moses and Aaron do is they just throw themselves down in front of the people. That humility and that trust, because they were pretty much saying, "Hey, we're going to stone you." Like Caleb and Joshua and I, all of you that keep saying that we can, and we're telling you that we can, we're going to shut you up one way or another if you don't stop it. And what Moses and Aaron do is they just kind of throw themselves down,
They
and
don't
it's
fight with them. They don't try to
no,
come up with all the arguments. How many interesting things are happening with their families, with things happening at your work, with things happening in your congregation, that you feel like everyone's coming against you because that's what's happening? And are you jumping back like, oh, I the word says, and you just
yeah,
come back fighting? he didn't come back and say, you do remember the
No,
Lord said, you do remember Adonai said this, you remember. He didn't do that. They fell on their face.
they just fell down. And even when they said we were gonna pelt them or whatever, God put his presence over them. Like he like, oh, okay, we want to go there. Boom. And so it's showing these like tangible things that you can kind of see and experience or whatever that he's doing, showing us how he will step up for us if we will just trust him.
I've
In
done
the
this
mid,
in my
it's like,
marriage. I've done this in my marriage, Rebecca. I've done it in my marriage. Like, and it wasn't, I caution you not to be manipulative in this, because I've also been tempted to do this the wrong as a manipulative device, because I found out it worked the first time. Then I was like, oh, I would do this more often. That when there was something happening, a big disagreement or something, and I would be like, you know what? I just need to pray right now. Can I just give me just a minute? And I didn't intentionally, I was just so upset. I didn't think shut the door or whatever. I just like went somewhere and prayed, and he could see me. And it instantly I could feel his God's presence. He quieted, and then instantly my husband was changed. I mean, it was like, I just need to pray right now. And then of course I try to do it the wrong way and be like, I'm gonna pray, like I'm gonna manipulate. I'm
yeah.
embarrassing myself sometimes, but I'm just saying, even if just we still can do these things in our practical things, even with our children. You know what? Y'all be crazy. I need to take a minute and pray. I need to like, they need to walk. You have to walk this out in front of them to show them how to handle hard times. This is
Amen.
going to be hard. Family, this is going to be hard. We're going to be moving. This is going to be happening. Dad has a new job. I have a new job. I'm going to be doing this. Something's going on at school. Something's happening. This is going to be hard, but our family does hard things because we can do all things through our Messiah Christ, Yeshua, who strengthens us. We can do all things. And we know that we know that we know that he's called us to this. So we are going to lean in, and we're just going to ask the Father instead, not why do we have to do this? Why did you bring this on me? Why, God? Why? What? We're not doing that. We don't do that in our family. What our family does is we say, okay, Father, how? How do you want me to do this? This is big. I'm overwhelmed. But so how do you want me to do this? Because you obviously have a plan. So how do I walk this out? Not why, and I can't, none of those things.
And can I just say that just spoke to me personally so much, because sometimes we're really good at looking at something else outside and being able to kind of give advice or do stuff or whatever. And we forget the steps that we're supposed to take for ourselves. You know, sometimes it's all about, and that's what I think is the most important thing that we can do in scripture, is to make it practical. I can know all the Hebrew in the world. I can break down a passage as much as you want and be like, and super impressive with facts and everything. If I can't break it down to the practical where I can use it in my own life, what use is of it to me? Absolutely nothing.
If you can't break it down, let's go to 1 Corinthians 13. If you can't break it down to make it practical, and then how, Father, am I going to love someone with this information? How do I become a lover of my people, community? How do I love better? Because I have knowledge, because, now I know what the number 40 means and mem, and I know these new found facts. Well, then how do I apply this? So my heart is changed. Change my heart, Father. Renew a right spirit in me. Or in Ezekiel, take my heart of stone and cause me to obey your commandments. Father, I want to I want to love. I want to love. So show me how this is love. How is this loving? When everything's coming in like you, that you drop to your knees instead of trying to fight.
Mm-hmm. Amen. And I think that that's one of the best things that I found with this group here in the portion in the Rooted Cafe, is that everyone is constantly pouring word out and their understanding of it. And it's that collective coming together that provides the nourishing food that we need to make it practical and walk it out.
Amen.
You
Amen.
know, that's what we need as
Mm-hmm.
the body. That's what we need, you know.
Well, and almost every single time when I find out there's an issue of people coming to me, and they're needing to talk about something, if they've been offended, their feelings are hurt, something's going wrong, almost every single time, it's when you're hurt, and especially when you're having like an identity crisis, it's pride. And we don't like to hear that, but it's pride. We're super focused on how is this affecting me? How is this hurting me? This hurts something in me that maybe you have an old wound as a child that that just got poked. And now you're like, ow, they hurt my feelings, but really it was an old wound that hasn't healed properly yet. And it all boils down to, you just don't have grasp onto your identity. We almost drill this home almost every week. This is an issue here about identity. They didn't know who they were. They had this slave mentality, and slavery comes in so many forms. Slavery comes in like addiction, generational abuse, spirit of lack, mediocrity. They had different spirits. Remember, Caleb and Joshua had a different spirit. What spirit are you operating in? Are you operating in generosity, or are you operating in a spirit of lack? Are you in greedy? Because you're like, well, I can't give because I don't have anything. Instead of asking, how can I give? You're saying, I can't give. How can I step up and do this? It doesn't have some big thing like, oh, now I'm like the speaker and I have to go do some big ministry. It might be as simple as he's telling you, I want you to give. And you're saying, I can't, because you're being a different spirit, a spirit of lack. The slavery mentality has now taken over, and it's not allowing you to think about being generous or how to give. And again, how can we, Father? I had living on the ranch, we had chickens. And I also had guinea fowl. So if anyone has had guinea fowl, you're going to be like, I totally get this. Guinea fowl are loud. They're kind of really good. They look like a really ugly turkey, and they can fly. They can fly anywhere. So like, you usually just let them roam wild all over your ranch. And what they do is they eat like ticks and fleas and snakes, and they're really great for that. But they're also a warning system. They will start honking and screaming if something they don't recognize is in the area. So we had these two guinea fowl, and we raised them with the chickens. They didn't know they were guinea. They didn't know they could fly because they had chicken mentality. So they were in this coop, and then they had this huge run. And then even when they were let loose, when all of them were let loose at the same time to free roam, they go around, they didn't know they could fly away. They didn't know they could fly up in the trees and look at stuff. They didn't know. They thought they were chickens. They thought they were chickens, and they didn't know. And then we ended up having dogs come in, a pack of dogs come in and kill all the chickens, killed them all the guinea fowl. Killed them because they didn't know they could fly away. They saw themselves as chickens. And all they had to do is fly. And I feel like that's the same thing with here, is that they saw themselves. That's what's happening in your life. You're seeing yourself not the way that he's created you. You're comparing everything to your abilities instead of creating instead of comparing what's happening, whether it's a conflict in your family, a conflict with a job, provision, whatever the problem is, fill in the blank. I mean, I think every single problem can fit in this blank, and we're comparing our ability to the problem instead of comparing the problem to who he is and his ability. That's our identity. Our identity is the daughter, the son of a king. I saw a funny video. This lady was all fancy and had these fancy glasses on and had her hair like all back and super fancy. She's like, excuse me, it was a TikTok video. She's like, excuse me, you can't talk to me that way because I am the daughter of a king. Excuse me. No, I don't drive. I don't know. My house is clean. No, I am the daughter of the king. Like, she was just giving all these funny things as if she were this fancy, like the Roosevelts or like the Rockefellers or a Kennedy or something. Like, that's how she looked. And she was talking to me like, you can't talk to me that way because I'm the daughter of the king. And it was super funny, but the point was like this.
Super clear.
Clear. You are not a grasshopper. You are not a guinea fowl. Stop comparing your challenges or your obstacles or your giants, whatever your giant is, to your ability. And trust that when it's time, he may just do it all for you, but if he doesn't want to do that way, instantly take care of something for you, he will equip you for whatever thing is, and compare the situation to who he is and his ability. That's all I got. That's all. I mean, I have like 45 pages of notes about all the cool stuff, but that's really it. It really comes down to that, right, Rebecca? It really is that. Yeah. That's like a mic drop.
We could just take that and apply that to our lives. Golden.
We would possess the land.
Yeah.
Isn't that
Yeah.
what he's calling us to do? He's calling us now. What is your land? Your land could be, maybe you need to possess your home. Maybe you're the only woman, the only person in your home who's observing the feast, festival, Shabbat. You're the only one trying to honor his things, his word, his Torah, and your family's like, you are crazy. Maybe that's what's happening, and you're seeing yourself as a grasshopper in your home. And he's saying, stop comparing your family and them not wanting to walk this out with you to yourself and your abilities. Just keep doing what you do and prostrate, like be like Moses and just get before me and let me deal with this.
How different is that in them seeing them as grasshoppers and Moses and Aaron just throwing themselves before the Lord? Because on the surface, it would kind of look like the same thing, right? I'm just
Yeah.
giving up. I'm not. But it's completely different. The grasshopper is the negative, and them throwing themselves before the Lord is the positive, the ideal thing that you want to happen is to kind of let go of everything and just let God, you know? It's the
Amen.
perspective that you take. There's always a choice. God gives you a choice, you know? He says, if you will do, I will do. I'm just saying, if you want this to happen, what you could do is, you want to
And it
take it.
works. It
Yeah.
works. Because I'm going to tell you that as consistently as I have been more and more and more consistent, I'm watching his promises. Before I was like, that's not true because I did it. And I realized, well, first of all, my heart was wrong. And second of all, I wasn't consistent. So the more consistent I get, the more I walk in blessings. Maybe my situation hasn't changed, but my perspective has changed. I don't see it as my thing, my giant to slay at
Hmm.
all. And I
Yep.
see that it's his giant to slay. And if I'm supposed to slay it, he'll make the rock hit exactly where it's supposed to hit when I'll do it to the best of my ability. And it's even like running. I prayed this yesterday in the Ruta Cafe. It was like, Father, this was your idea. Because I had a fully functioning life before this, and had a career, and I didn't ask for this. So I feel like, so I'm going to just put this all before you. What do you need me to do? How do you need this to go? Because it's yours. And I'm not going to let the things that maybe bills, or maybe like, oh, how are we going to make this homeschool conference happen? This is big. And how do I do? I'm not going to even worry about that. I'm going to do what you tell me to do. And if it works, it works. And, and I said, because if it doesn't work, you know what the people are going to think? They're going to be like, oh, wow, I thought this was God. And I guess this is one more ministry that didn't work. And I was laughing. I was like, look at me trying to be Moses.
Yeah.
But I was like, hey, God, you have a reputation to keep around here. He's like, you're a mess. I can't even keep you anymore. He's going to replace me. Anyways, thanks for hanging out with me today. We're working really hard to keep this at an hour now for all of you, because we know it's long. It's hard sometimes to hang in, but thank you. I challenge you. Would you write out your giants this week? What are the things that are your
Mm,
giants? Could you write those out? Right? Let's write
yeah.
them out, and then submit them to the Father, and compare your giants to your king, your dad. Be that little girl who goes, my daddy's bigger than your daddy. My dad's going to beat up your dad. Be that little girl. Be that girl and do that. Okay? And for those of you that are listening, and if you're listening live, it's not too late, jump over and be with us in the after party. As soon as we hang up right now, when we stop this live, we open it up to everyone who's in the after party. We've got about 23 ladies over there right now. And then we just open it up and we all just chat and talk for longer. So feel free to hop over there with us. We love you. Be blessed. Anything else,
Amen.
Rebecca? Penny?
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat
Enjoy your
shalom.
Shabbat.
Amen.